Okay, so let's animate the texts. So if I reload the application, we can see that we have four types of animations. We have the number, then the first text, then the second text, and then the player. So this is what we're going to be doing. And now it's going to be much easier because we know how this works. So on the other one, it's going to be a piece of cake. Right, so we have a component, we do have a component to host all these animations, and we have it inside text. Of course, we have nothing right here. So I'm going to create a React class-based component, React RCC, and this could be a stateless component. Yeah, it could be a stateless component, doesn't matter. You can do that. I'm just going to create a class right now. So, okay, first we need to import all the animated related stuff, the dependencies for animations. We have it in stripes. So I'm going to copy, go to text, and paste it. All right. So, of course, see within featured, we need to render the text below stripes. So import, then text from dot / and then text. Right. And of course, we need to make a reference right here. Text. Okay. So I'm going to go back to text. Now, inside text, we need to render a wrapper where we're going to be containing all of this animation. So the class name for this will be class name and then featured and then text. And inside of here, we will render 4 types of animation. So I will run 4 different functions. So the first one is going to be called this animate, first. Why not? Animate and then first, which is going to be the number. No, I'm going to do number. So animate number. First is the actual text. So first I'm going to animate number. Right. So I'm going to copy the name of the function. I'm going to go right here and just create a function. Right. We just run a function. Now this function will return some JSX. So we need to use parentheses instead of square brackets. What we return is going to be that animate tag we were using previously. And what we do, we return a function with the actual div, just like we did before. I'm not going to explain it again. Go back to the previous section. So we return a function, in this case, open and close, and we return some function. Now, from this one, we will get all the props like opacity or rotate and background and everything else, but we're going to do it later. Of course, we need to return some JSX, so open and close, and I will be returning just a div. In this case, I want the class name for featured and then number. That's the class of this one. And of course, we need to attach the styles with all the animations and everything else. So in this case, I'm going to say style equals and leave it empty. We don't have the properties so far. And then I'm going to say just 3. I'm going to go back. And of course, cannot destructure undefined because we are not really passing anything. That's good. Now, of course, we need to pass all the properties to the animate tag. So I'm going to say this one, show, it's true. We want to show it. So true, and then close it. And then we have a start and an enter. So I'm going to say start equals something. Now we will do 2 things. We will add opacity and rotation. So opacity equals 0, then comma, and then rotate equals 0. So the starting point, it's 0. Then, of course, when it enters, we want to do animations. So opacity, again, we change it to 1, and remember the square brackets. Then what we want to do, we want to rotate, and we want to rotate 360 degrees, full rotation. And then, of course, we always need to add the timing, and notice that right now it's working. So timing. The timing, we have duration. In this case, I'm not gonna add a delay, just duration, just like this, and it's gonna take 1 second. And then the easing, the ease, we will use the one at the top, which is the same one than the other one, ease poly out. Right. So now we are using opacity and rotation. So I'm gonna copy opacity, pass it to the function, and then rotate, and then again, pass it to the function. Now, of course, inside styles, we need to make a reference to this opacity. So we will say just opacity, and the rotation, it is a transform, just like the other one. So transform, open and close, and we will use template strings. So again, I will do a translation, really simple. Translate and open and close, and it's going to be 2 60 pixels, comma 170 pixels. Now, there's no point of doing this. This is the starting point where this number is going to be positioned, pretty much. That is it. And then, of course, we have the rotate. Let me close this. And the rotation, we do have a rotation value. So rotate Y, open and close, and we need to pass the property. So open and close, rotate, and you notice that I'm going a little bit faster right now. So rotate degrees, and we do get it, you know? We get that animated number. All right, that's good. All right, let's fix the problem with the font. I'm gonna go to Google Font, and it's because we never include this inside of the project. Sorry for that. So Google and then fonts. So I know this is boring, but you know, part of the process. What are you gonna do? Roboto, and then okay, Roboto, and the other one is the same one than the other project, the Righteous. I like this font. I don't know why. So Roboto, customize, then light, medium, and that's it. We don't need the other ones. So I'm going to copy the link, go to the index, paste it right here, save it, and if I go back, voila, we do have the number. So now we need to create the first animation for the number, for the for the text, the first text. So this animation, I'm going to go back to text. We just need to do pretty much the same thing with different values. Instead of the animate number, I'm going to call it this animate and then first. All right, just run the function. Now we don't have the function. I'm going to go right here, animate first, open and close, and we will return some JSX. Now the animation looks like this one, so I'm going to copy and paste it. Now if you ask yourself, dude, could we do just maybe a loop and loop some properties? Well, yeah, you could. You totally could. I'm doing this way. We did that with stripes. All right. So again, we just with animate first, we return, of course, something different. Instead of animate number, it's going to be animate first. Now we do have opacity and the transform. We do have a translate, but we don't have rotation. So I'm going to remove it. And of course, we're going to use different properties. And instead of 3, we will say league. All right. So instead of rotate, I'm going to delete rotate, and I'm going to delete again rotate. We will use the X and Y axis, so these two values. So X with some values, and then of course Y. So I'm going to say Y with some values. Now the values for X, which is the default, I'm going to position the number on this place. If I put 0, they're going to go right here at the top, but I need to put them right below the number. So, okay. So I'm going to delete it, and the numbers are 503, and I've already done this, of course, 503 and 450. So now we need to animate the X and the Y, because they're going to go from here to here. You know, this is the starting point, and then I'm going to go and stop right here. Okay, so the X, I'm going to wrap everything in square brackets, and autocomplete. Okay, and it's going to be 273. Again, I told you already done the math. And the Y, 450. There's actually no need to use the Y. We can use 450, but we need to actually pass it right here. So it's the same value. So now we are using an X and Y, and I'm going to change the duration. Instead of 1 second, it's going to be 500, and same easing. And on the translation, I'm going to use template strings to use X and to use Y. Right. Of course, we need to be adding pixels right here at the bottom, at the end. And then in opacity, we need to pass this property. So X and then Y. Now, if I reload the application, there we go. You get it. All right. So since this one was very simple, let's do the other one, the championship, which is going to be pretty much the same thing. So same process. I'm going to create a function, this dot animate, and then show, I don't know, maybe animate second instead of show. Makes sense? Animate second. All right. And we pretty much do the same thing. Like I told before, if you want to create a loop to do this, you totally can. You can manage everything through state. So I'm going to copy this one from within the animate. I'm going to copy, and I made a mistake right here. I'm going to delete this one and put some parentheses. All right. So the animate instead of lick is going to be championships. Championships. That's the first change. Championships. Very good. So they really are the champs. They won the 218 title. So they really are champions. Okay. So instead of featured first, featured second. Right. And opacity and transform, we will use pretty much the same thing. The only thing it's going to change right here are the values. Everything else stays the same. Now, I'm going to go to X. It's going to be 503, same position on the X, but 273, same position on the X, right? This is good. Now, if you notice, this one is below leak. So now we need to change the Y-axis to 586, and then, of course, 586. That doesn't change. Okay. So I'm going to reload the application, our application, and we are not getting it. Let me see why. Animation, oh, of course. I'm going to reload it, and we're going to get it. Now, the problem is that, if we take a look at this one, first comes leak, and then comes championships. So we need to achieve this, and we can do it through delay and timing, right? So I'm going to go and say delay, open and close, and not too much. And if I reload it, we get it. All right. So we are almost done. The only thing left is just the player, and it's just an opacity effect. All right. So let's add the player. Really simple. We just need to do an animation with opacity. So this dot animate, and then of course player, open and close. So animate player is going to be just a function that is going to be returning some JSX. At this point, this should be really easy for you. All right. So animate player will be returning something. So I don't want to type all over again. I'm going to copy, paste. So again, show true and opacity. We don't need the XY. So I'm going to delete the XY and just leave the opacity. And the delay is going to take, this one shows at the end. Sorry, I'm a little bit sick, so sometimes my throat itches. So, okay, time delay, 800. Right here in my country, right now in my country, it's winter, so everyone is kind of sick. That's really bummer. So, featured player, of course, we need to change this. And the style is just opacity, and then the transform, I'm going to, put the default positioning of the actual image. So, 201. And that's the keyword. We don't have a word right here. We have an image. So we kind of need the background image. So we can put it right here. So everything is on resources. On resources, we do have this image, featured player. And, oh, well, it's too large. Maybe we can trim that down, but it doesn't matter right now. So we're going to include it right here at the top. So we say import featured and then player. And this is something you will need to do in real life. Sometimes the designer, maybe you know, but maybe you don't. Sometimes the designers or the people that will be creating the design for you to create right here on the HTML version, they will give you the images, and sometimes the images are really, really big. They are kind of not very safe to use on a loading environment, because you're going to be loading images from the web. So, they are really heavy, right? So there we go, feature player. So they're really heavy. So sometimes you will need to use some software, maybe Photoshop or I don't know, whatever software you want to use to trim down the size. This one, the feature player, it's 1 megabyte. It's too much. I'm sorry for that. I forgot to trim that down. But in real life, if you go to production, you need to trim it down. All right, so now we do have an image. So I'm gonna need to go right here at the bottom, and pass the URL of the image, right? Makes sense. Background, open and close, and it's URL, open, close, and we just pass with template strings, real simple, the featured player, and of course, comma. All right. And there we go. We can get it. This is I believe this is my mistake, because I'm loading a component before the actual text, after the actual text. So we go animate number, animate first, and then second, and then player. So this is my mistake. The player should be loading first because it's going to go, behind of all of this text. So if I reload it, let it go again. There we go. We kind of get it. So we have the same animation. So this is it. This was not a lot of work. A lot of this was, copy paste. But this is the kind of a complicated thing to understand. And why returning a function? Why? And right here we don't need the x, y. So why return? After you do it one time, it's pretty obvious, right? You can repeat this and create really complex animations. And of course, remember to always check the React move. Now we will do more animations, not this one, but we're going to do something like this, and we're going to do this, and then on the the matches, we will animate list with that node group right here, node group. We will use that one to animate this thing. All right, so let's go to the next one. I'm going to give you the code. Of course, you can find the resource, the code for this section, and we're going to move forward and do the next one, the matches. And this one is it's going to get really interesting right here, because the matches, they need a database. They need, the name of the teams. They need the logos. They need the how the match, if our team won or something like that. We need that kind of information, and that information comes from the database, and we don't have a database. So we will need to create a database with Firebase, feed some information, and then do all the setup in our project to connect to the data to Firebase to retrieve the data. All right, so let's go to the next section and start all of that.